Welcome to the 10 essential items of writing great workplace policies and procedures, the things that you must have in your policies and procedures. The first thing is to make sure that you have a consistent structure, and that's about people finding the information really easily. So if you've developed a full suite of policies, you want them to be used. You want your employees to know exactly where to go to get that key information quickly. The second thing is to make sure that you've got a statement of why that policy exists. Give some reasons for the policy so that employees can relate to it. For example, at the HR Shed and HR Intranet, we actually have a policy we use for our clients on annual leave, and that states that the company would rather that people take their annual leave regularly and that they take their full quantity of leave every 12 months. And that's a way for them to rest and recuperate and re-energise themselves by having time off work. That's the positive spin on the policy. The management perspective that sits behind that policy is that the organisation doesn't really want to carry a huge liability in annual leave accrual. So they would prefer that employees do take that annual leave regularly. So there is always a management reason for having a policy, but you don't need necessarily to have that written in to your policy. You can frame it in a positive way for the employees. The third thing is that the policy must match your culture. So, for example, if you have an annual leave policy that says we value people taking annual leave, you can't turn around and then ring them every 5 minutes while they're on their annual leave, or make it really difficult for them to get annual leave approved, because what you say and what you do are two different things, and that's going to be really negative for your organisational culture. So make sure that they're aligned. It's not all bad though. If you're looking at implementing policies and procedures as a way of changing your organisational culture, they're a fabulous tool to do that, and it's okay then for a bit of a mismatch. What you need to do is have your line managers on board for why those organisational policies are changing, what aspects are changing, and support them in implementing that change. And we've seen time and time again policies and procedures change organisations to become more professional places to work. It's really easy for decision making for managers, and employees really respect that there's somewhere to go and find out consistent information. So they are a great tool, and you can use them for change in your organisation. The fourth thing is definitions. Now that sounds pretty basic. You would want a definition in a policy, but some people don't include a definition. And the problem is, if an employee can misconstrue some keywords in a policy for their own benefit, they'll try to do so. So make sure your definitions are really clear. We were doing an OHS policy on visitors for a particular client who had a golf course and accommodation facility on site. They'd never been able to get anyone to sign in the visitors, even though the visitor book sat at reception. When we did our definitions around what a visitor is, they had so many different types of visitors, it was quite confusing for the front desk staff to make that decision. So we included what a visitor is not, and that made all the change, and now that policy and that visitor record is being used all the time. So it can be as simple as putting in your definition what something isn't, and you just want decision making to be really easy with your policies. On number 5, you want scope. Who does this policy apply to? I want to know if I should be reading this policy as an employee or as a line manager. Does it apply to me? That also will help with your permissions. So for example, in the HR Intranet that we sell, we permission off those policies that just relate to line managers, so employees can't get access to it. So making sure your scope is clear does help with that. Number 6, you want to have responsibilities in there, and in particular for procedures you want to know who's responsible for what. But even in policies you want to know who's responsible and what those responsibilities are. So for example, our annual leave policy, we say within that management is responsible for ensuring that annual leave is taken regularly and according to the policy and the workflow requirements. Whereas employees are responsible for submitting their leave request forms in a timely manner and understanding the seasonal requirements of their work. So that means that employees are going to understand that they can't always get their entitlement at a busy time of the year. So it's just important to put those things in for clarity. Number 7, you want to have related documents. That makes it easy to find those key forms and make sure everyone's using the most current form. So at the end of our policies and procedures, we have a related documents section, and in the HR Shed and HR Intranet, they're actually hyperlinked, so an employee can just click on that related document and it goes straight through to the form they need. But in a manual system, you can still have related documents there, and it just ensures people are using the right form and using the system as a full system. Number 8, you want key dates. And this is pretty obvious. You want to know when the policy was approved and when it was altered. A lot of big organisations will actually go through an annual program of reviewing all their policies, and they'll review against legislation, usability, is this policy or procedure helping us in the organisation, and just make sure that their policies are up to date. At the HR Shed and HR Intranet, we do that more than annually. We are constantly looking at best practice. Over 12 years of information and research has been included in our policies, and we will tweak things to make sure that they work for organisations in all industries. So we're constantly reviewing and updating, and if you're a member of the Shed or the HR Intranet, then you get those policies direct to you, and you don't have to do your review from certainly a legislative perspective, but you can look at them from your own organisation perspective. Number 9, a title. You want to have a clear title. You want people to be able to locate the policy they're looking for pretty quickly so that they can use that policy immediately when they want it. And finally, number 10, you want a policy code. This is particularly important if you have controlled documentation. Obviously, each policy will be coded. You might start at 001 and go through. It just means as you're working through your updates as well, you know where you're up to and what policy has been updated at what time. So in summary, there are 10 things that you really want to have in your policies and procedures. You want to have a consistent structure. You want to have this statement of why the policy exists. You want to make sure that that policy meets your culture. You want to have definitions and scope. You want to outline the responsibilities. What are the related documents of it? The key dates, and finally, the title and policy code. So they're the key items that you need for your policies to be great and usable in your business and transform your business. And I hope you've really enjoyed this information, and if you want some more information on policies and procedures, just sign up below for our next free training video, which is on social media policy, the must-haves for dealing with Facebook and Twitter and productivity issues in your business.